Here today I'm looking at the Diatone Lizard 180. I don't think the Lizard was actually the best name they could have done. Maybe something like a crescent or, I don't know, flying squirrel, stuff like that. I've heard a lot of different names for this quad. But I'm going to take a look at this one and compare it to my 130 and my 150 and also an LS 180. The main plate is just one big piece of carbon fiber, and the upper plate has the cutaway and up here in the front. That way you can angle your camera up at a pretty good angle and the frame will not be in your way. Again, it comes with these little rubber spacers, and these are to separate your power distribution board from the carbon fiber. That way it doesn't short to the board. Then it also comes with a whole slew of these little nylon nuts and spacers so that you can mount your power distribution board and your flight controller, which is nice because some of the other companies don't include these, but Diatone always seems to. And of course it comes with the metal screws to go up on top. I'm gonna go ahead and get this assembled and we'll get some measurements off of it. So here's the quadcopter fully assembled. Let's go ahead and get some measurements off of this. Let me zero this out, and there we go. Zero it, there we go. And this main plate here is about 2.6 millimeters thick. And the upper plate looks like it's a 1 millimeter plate. Yeah, it's a 1 millimeter plate up on top too. There you go. Now you can kind of see it. The space in between these two is not much. We have about 20 millimeters of space inside there. So there's not a whole lot of room in there. When I look at this frame, there's a couple issues I think that it's going to have, you know, being a top contender frame anyway. Is you have a lot of this surface area outside of the upper plate that kind of sticks out. You also have a lot of surface area back here, and when the motor spins, the wind that comes off the motors is going to push against this instead of pushing down around it and giving you a little bit more thrust out of it. And you know, it's not that big of a deal. They do have a hole here to help let some of the air go through, and this isn't huge, but it's just probably bigger than it needs to be. Also, these nylon spacers here in the middle, they're kind of tall. I mean, if you were to solder all your wires in here, having a spacer even half this height would probably be enough to separate the power distribution board from your flight controller. Also, with these spacers that they included, look how much room you have for a flight board. It's not very much. Your flight board will fit in here, but with the pins on it, I don't know if it's going to fit in there quite as well as it should. And also, because this is a little bit thicker plate than normal, and you have the little red rubber washers inside there, these nuts on the bottom are just hanging on by a couple threads on these screws that go down through it. You might be better off, if you're going to fly this, to get a kit like this. This kit includes some longer screws like this one here, and this, in fact, this screw is just as long as the spacer there, maybe a little bit longer, but just as long as the spacer. And you could run this through instead, put a single nut like this on the bottom of the screw, and then put your power distribution board, so that way the power distribution board isn't touching the carbon fiber. Then you could put a little small spacer like this one on top of the power distribution board, and then the flight controller would sit on top of it, and then you have another nut up on the very top for the flight controller to, you know, hold it down. And that should give you enough clearance inside here for a flight board. So here's the quad frame fully assembled. It comes in about 64.7 grams. So this is sold as a 180, and if we look at this, you can't really see it, but right here is actually 180, and let's see if I can put it up over there. There you go. That's the 180 right there. So this is really almost exactly 180 millimeters across from arm to arm. So here's the Lizard 180 sitting next to a LS 180. You can see they're about the same height. This one has a little bit thicker arms than this one, and so I don't know. I really like this frame, and even it has a thick arm, so maybe these aren't really too thick after all. Now, one difference on here, these holes in this arm are cut to hold 1806 motors or like a 2204 or 2206 motor. These ones are only going to use your 1806 motors or smaller, just because of the hole pattern that they have cut in them. So this is a deformation 130, a blade 150, and the Lizard 180, and you can kind of see a little bit of the size difference, but it's not too apparent because this one's not built out. But here it is compared to the arms on the 180. You can see here it's definitely bigger than the 180. And here's the 130, and you can see it just it trumps all over a 130 in terms of size. But this one should be able to support 4-inch propellers, which it does just fine. Here's the 4-inch prop, and you can see here how I got it centered over the hole, and it's clearing the spacer with plenty of room, and it shouldn't have any problems. Now you're not going to be able to run any 5-inch props on here unless you were to like flip the frame upside down and flat like this, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to do that. One other nice thing, it does have the antenna mount up here. And a lot of people say, well, can you run your antenna, whoa. Can you run your antenna through this and have it short on this carbon fiber? Well, the answer is, it's probably going to be fine as long as you don't have anything else shorting to the carbon fiber. This here, in fact, this frame is actually going to be a little better for you because it has the nylon spacers here, so nothing's going to short out to the bottom board from the top board. Now, if you have pins touching the top board in here, well, that's just bad. Don't do that. Don't let your pins short to this board. In fact, you shouldn't let anything short to the board at all. So if you can keep everything from shorting to the board except for the antenna, you should be fine. I run all my antennas through these holes when I can fit them there, and I don't have any problems with that. If you're going to build this, and this is going to be one of your first quadcopters, you probably want to start off with like 3S batteries and either 1806 or 1306 motors. Both of those are going to spin 4-inch props pretty easily. The 1806 motors will probably do a little bit easier, but you know, you should be okay using 3S. And then also, I would go ahead and design your quadcopter, the ESCs that you choose. Go ahead and make sure they're 4S compatible, because later when you get a little better and you think you're a little bit faster, you're going to want to fly faster. And if you put the 4S batteries through some 1306 motors like these, you are going to see a big difference from 3S, and it's a lot of fun. But like I said, if you're just starting, I definitely recommend getting 3S batteries. And probably, if I was going to recommend on this frame, I'd say 1806 motors, just because it's a 180 frame. If it was a smaller frame, a 160 or a 150 or less, I'd probably say 1306 motors should be fine. Anyway, this is the Lizard 180 from Banggood. If you have any questions about this, feel free to leave in the comments, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. And as always, thanks for watching.